I'm not teaching, I'm publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for the Life and Video K-Test part 47. The Reformation in Scotland and Mary Queen of Scots, part 2, that is on page 25. So in 1560 Scotland had a predominantly Protestant parliament, and they declared that the Pope no longer has something to say in Scotland and that Catholic religious services are no longer allowed. They became illegal. There were formed a Protestant Church of Scotland. It had an elected leadership, but otherwise but differently from what it was in England, it was not a state church. When there was the Queen of Scotland, her name was Mary Stuart, and she's often called Mary Queen of Scots, which the title of the section is. She was Catholic. So, Scotland, the parliament, was predominantly Protestant, and Catholic services became illegal. And a Protestant Church of England was established. But the Queen of Scotland, Mary Stuart, or Mary Queen of Scots, was Catholic. She was only a week old when her father died and she became queen. So, Mary Queen of Scots, Mary Stuart, was around 7 days old when she became the Queen of Scotland, because her father died. Let's start with the first. I never announced it. This is a bit standing yoga as a side thing. And if you participate in it, it is at your own risk. So if you're doing this exercise and you break your leg, it is your own risk. We're having the legs standing a bit more and shoulder wide apart. We're breathing in and lifting the arms up. And we're breathing out and we're leaning back. And we're opening the chest to the sky. And we're breathing in, lifting the arms up. And we're breathing again out and take a position of a crab in the morning. And breathe in. And clasp the feet and bring also the palms of the hands to touch. Breathe in. And out, and now we're leaning back. And breathe in, come into the middle. And breathe out again and lean again back. Let us read in the wind. And breathe again in into the middle. And out. Let's look if we can make a short chapter and then to go. So with 7 days old, with a week old, Mary Stuart, Mary Queen of Scots, became the Queen of Scotland. She was Catholic, otherwise than her country, even though we don't know. Because that happened in 1560, that the predominantly Scottish Parliament prohibited Roman Catholic religious services. So we don't know what it was when Mary Stuart was a week old. Much of her childhood was spent in France, so she was in France. Now I can't make any speculations to what religion was there where she was in France. That's too complicated. The religions of France during the 16th century. So, Mary Queen of Scots, the Queen of Scotland, who became the Queen of Scotland with a week old, spent the most part of her first years in France. When she returned to Scotland, she was the center of power struggle between different groups. So, she was the queen. That means she was probably the highest person in Scotland. And there were different groups. Now we know that in Scotland there were also clans, like in Ireland, clans, and they were controlling the land, but that was during the time of feudalism, somewhere around 1300 or something like that. So we don't know what is now happening 300 years later. There were different groups. We know of other groups, for example, the House of Lancaster with the Red Rose, and we know of a group of the House of York, the White Rose, who were fighting who became the king during the Wars of the Rose from 1455, 1485. So, something like that. There were different groups, and they didn't know who had the most power, something like that. She was the center of a power struggle between different groups. So there were different groups, and they were struggling for power, and she was the center of them. Let's do the warrior. We are having the toes of one leg that direction pointing and the toes of one leg at that direction. We're lifting the arms up and breathing in. And we're breathing out and we're bending that one leg. Now we're breathing in and out, leaning up. And breathing in and out into the middle. And breathe in. And out, and now one hand slides down the leg and we are looking up to the arm. And breathe in and straighten the front leg. And out and sink again down. And breathe in. And out, back into the warrior. Breathe in. And out in the middle. And now on the other side. These toes into this direction, the toes into that direction. Breathing in and lifting the arms up. And out. We're bending the front leg. We're breathing in. And out. And breathe in. And out, back into the warrior. Breathe in. Out, one hand comes down, the other one up. Breathe in. And straighten front leg. And out, sink again down. And breathe in. And out, back into the warrior. Breathe in. And out. And extend the warrior. So, Mary, Queen of Scots, Mary Stuart, had spent her childhood in France, and she was a week older when her father died and she became the Queen of Scotland. And now she returned after having spent her childhood in France, and she was the center of power struggle of different groups. When her husband was murdered, Mary was suspected of involvement and fled to England. So her husband was murdered, and she was suspected of being involved in that murder. So she fled to England. She gave the throne to her Protestant son, James VI of Scotland. So, the Queen of Scotland was Catholic. She was a week old when she became queen. She lived in France during her childhood. When she came back, there was a struggle for power. Her husband was murdered. She was suspected of being a part of it. She fled to England. Her son James VI of Scotland became king, and he was a Protestant. Mary was Elizabeth I's cousin. Now we have clarification. Because Mary, the child of Catherine of Aragon and King Henry VIII, was the half-sister of Elizabeth I. And this Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots, is her cousin. And we could calculate it through, but it's at least very, very highly unlikely, maybe even impossible, that someone is at the same time someone's half-sister and a cousin. So Mary Stuart is another person than Mary, the daughter of Catherine of Aragon and King Henry VIII. So Mary was Elizabeth I's cousin and hoped that Elizabeth might help her. Elizabeth was Protestant. So Mary was Catholic, Elizabeth was Protestant, but Elizabeth, even though she re-established the Church of England. So she was not in the middle between Catholicism and a neutral position. She was Protestant, and she re-established the Church of England, but she found a middle way. That's the point. And people will not ask for their religious belief, so she found a middle way. So Mary, Catholic, hoped for help through Elizabeth. Mary was Elizabeth I's cousin and hoped that Elizabeth might help her, but Elizabeth suspected Mary of wanting to take over the English throne and kept her as a prisoner for 20 years. Let's do the next exercise. It is the standing cat and cup. We're having the feet standing together. We are breathing in and lifting the arms up. Now we don't. I made the same mistake previously. We're having the feet standing closely together, have an inch space between the toes, or between the whole feet. We're breathing in, no, it's not a bond, and we're going down. And now we're breathing in and out, and we're holding them back. Now we're breathing in into the middle and out, and we're looking up and we're making a bend in the back. And we're breathing in again into neutral position of the spine and out into the cat position. And again in into the middle and out into the cow. And again in, out, again in, and out. Again in and out. In and out, back into the cow. Now we're in. And we're just finishing this exercise. And let's finish with how exercising. We're having the toes pointing to the outside and we're not in space between the heels. We're breathing in and lifting the arms up. And we're breathing out and we're sinking down into the guarded pose. We're placing the elbows against the insides of the knees. We're breathing in and coming taller to the back. And out, we're coming the back up. We're breathing in. And out, back into the middle. And again in. And out. Again in. And out. And we're breathing in. And out, we're coming up in one straight line. We're closing the feet. Breathe in. And out, we're doing a down diving swan. Breathe in. Come halfway up with the back and straighten the back. And out, again down. Breathe in and come again halfway up the back and straighten the back. And out again down. Breathe in and do the up diving swan. And out. And we're done with a bit standing yoga. So Mary Stuart, Queen of the Scots, she was 7 days old when her father died. Then she spent a childhood in France. When she came back, her husband was murdered. She was the center of power struggle. Her husband was murdered. And she had gone to her cousin, but her cousin suspected her of wanting to take over the throne and put her into a dungeon for 20 years. I thank you very much. Until next time.